The kitchen clock read 2:17 a.m. when I found myself staring at Clara's empty coffee cup, still sitting exactly where she'd left it 3 days ago. My wife had supposedly gone on a 7-day spa retreat to find herself, but something about the whole situation stank worse than the garbage I'd forgotten to take out. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Elliot Brenner, 42 years old, and I've been fixing other people's problems for 20 years as a contractor. You learn to spot when something's not built right, when the foundation's cracked, when someone's trying to hide shoddy work behind fresh paint. My marriage, I was starting to realize, had all the warning signs of a house about to collapse. Clara's suitcase was gone, sure enough, but her work phone sat on the kitchen counter, screen cracked from when she'd dropped it last week. What kind of spa retreat doesn't require you to bring your phone? The kind that doesn't exist? That's what kind. I picked up the device knowing her passcode because she'd never bothered changing it from our anniversary date. Funny how someone planning to leave their husband would keep such a sentimental password, right? The irony wasn't lost on me. The first thing I saw made me freeze. A text thread with someone labeled simply G in her contacts. Missing you already, babe. Can't wait for tonight at our usual spot. Same here. Elliot's working late again, so we have plenty of time. Your husband really is clueless, isn't he? Completely. Sometimes I think he's more interested in his tools than me. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. My hands weren't shaking yet, but they would be soon. 20 years of marriage, and this is what I got? A cheating wife who thought I was too stupid to notice? The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was how right she was about me being clueless. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? All those girls' nights out and work conferences suddenly made a lot more sense. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Patterson, our neighbor across the street. The woman saw everything from her front window perch, like some kind of suburban surveillance system. Elliot, honey, I saw Clara leave with a man in a silver Mercedes last night around 9 p.m. Wasn't sure if I should mention it. Hope everything's okay. I typed back quickly. Thanks, Mrs. P. Just a friend giving her a ride to the airport. But we both knew that was bullshit. Clara's flight wasn't until this morning, according to what she'd told me. And since when did she have friends with Mercedes? I walked through our house, really looking at it for the first time in months. The craftsman-style home we'd bought 15 years ago, back when we still talked about having kids and growing old together. I'd renovated every inch of this place with my own hands. The hardwood floors, the kitchen cabinets, even the stupid decorative molding she'd insisted on in the dining room. In our bedroom, I opened Clara's dresser drawers. Most of her clothes were still there, but I noticed something odd. Her favorite socks, the ones with little cats on them that she wore when she wanted to feel comfortable, were missing. What kind of spa retreat requires cat socks? That's when I found it. Hidden in the very back of her sock drawer, wrapped in an old t-shirt, was a second phone. A burner phone, like something out of a crime drama. My wife, the HR executive who lectured people about company policy violations, had a secret phone. This one didn't have a passcode. The text messages went back 6 months. 6 months of planning, scheming, and laughing at me behind my back. Photos that made my stomach turn. Plans for weekend getaways, discussions about when the time is right to leave him. But the worst part was reading about myself through her eyes. How I was boring and predictable. How I never surprised her anymore. How Gavin, that was his name, Gavin Miller, was everything I wasn't. Exciting, spontaneous, successful. Gavin Miller. I'd heard that name before. Real estate agent, sold houses to some of my clients. Slick guy with perfect teeth and a handshake that lasted too long. The kind of man who called everyone buddy and drove a car that cost more than most people's annual salary. Indeed, I sat on the edge of our bed, holding both phones, and started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was putting my fist through the wall I just painted last month. Clara thought she was so clever, thought she'd planned everything perfectly, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. I wasn't just some clueless contractor who spent his days swinging hammers and drinking beer. I was a man who solved problems for a living, who took broken things and made them work again, who understood that sometimes, when something's damaged beyond repair, you tear it down and start over. The clock now read 3:45 a.m. In a few hours, I'd have to get up and pretend everything was normal. Go to work, manage my crew, act like my wife was relaxing at some fancy spa instead of screwing another man in a cheap motel room. But first, I had some planning to do. Because if Clara wanted to play games, I was going to show her what happens when you challenge someone who builds things for a living. I had 6 more days before she was supposed to come home. 6 days to prepare, 6 days to turn the tables. The foundation of our marriage might be cracked beyond repair, but I was going to make sure when it collapsed, I wouldn't be the one buried in the rubble. I didn't sleep. By the time my alarm went off at 6 a.m., I'd already been awake for 4 hours, drinking coffee and making lists. That's what contractors do when faced with a big job. We break it down into manageable steps, figure out what tools we need, and get to work. My foreman Mitch arrived at the job site right on time, lunch cooler in one hand, thermos of coffee in the other. Mitch Henderson was the kind of guy you wanted on your crew. Reliable, skilled, and loyal to a fault. He'd worked for me for 8 years, and I trusted him more than my own wife. Which, considering recent developments, wasn't saying much. "Boss, you look like hell," Mitch said, setting down his gear. "Clara keeping you up with wedding planning stories from that fancy spa." I almost choked on my coffee. Something like that. "Hey, Mitch, you still got that friend who works in private security? The one who helped you catch your ex-wife's boyfriend?" Mitch's eyebrows shot up. "Yeah, Tony. Why? We got problems with theft again?" "Maybe. I need someone who knows about surveillance equipment, legal stuff, nothing crazy. Just want to keep an eye on my property while Clara's away." That wasn't entirely a lie. I did want to keep an eye on my property. Specifically, I wanted to know when certain people might be visiting it. "I'll give him a call. Tony's good people, won't ask too many questions." Mitch studied my face. "You sure everything's okay, Elliot? You seem different today." "Just tired. Let's focus on getting this kitchen renovation finished. Mrs. Kowalski wants to host Thanksgiving dinner, and we promised it'd be done by next week." We spent the morning installing cabinet hardware and touching up paint, but my mind was elsewhere. During lunch break, I drove to the local electronics store and bought a few items: a small GPS tracker, a digital recorder, and a new security camera for my front porch. All perfectly legal purchases for a homeowner concerned about security. That afternoon, while Mitch was finishing the backsplash, I made some phone calls. First, to our bank. As joint account holders, I had every right to monitor transactions. What I found made my jaw clench. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel bills, even a jewelry purchase from last month that I'd never seen Clara wear. The jewelry store was happy to show me security footage of the purchase, since I was asking about insurance coverage for my wife's new earrings. There was Clara, all right, but she wasn't alone. Gavin Miller stood right beside her, his hand on her lower back, looking every bit like a man buying jewelry for his woman. My woman, my wife. By 5 p.m., I had a pretty clear picture of what I was dealing with. This wasn't some sudden affair or midlife crisis. This was a calculated plan to replace me, probably funded with our joint money, while keeping me in the dark until she was ready to pull the trigger. I drove home through our quiet neighborhood, past the houses where I'd done work over the years. The Johnsons' new deck, the Martinez family's bathroom remodel, old Mr. Foster's wheelchair ramp. I'd helped build the lives these people wanted, made their houses into homes. What had I built with Clara? What did we have that was worth saving? My phone rang as I pulled into the driveway, Clara's number. "Hey, honey." Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely normal. "Just wanted to check in. How was your day?" "Same as always. Working. How's the spa?" "Oh, it's wonderful. So relaxing. The massage therapist here is amazing, and the food is incredible. I really needed this, Elliot. I feel like I'm remembering who I am." Every word was a lie, delivered with practiced ease. I wondered how many times she'd rehearsed this conversation. "That's great, babe. When do you think you'll be home?" "Sunday evening, like we planned. I miss you." The casual cruelty of that lie hit me harder than I expected. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Miss you too." "Hey, Mrs. Patterson mentioned she saw you leave in someone else's car. Did something happen to yours?" A pause. Just a second, but I caught it. "Oh, that. Yeah, Sophie offered to drive me to the airport. Her car's more comfortable for long trips." Sophie. Her best friend from work, who drove a beat-up Honda Civic and complained constantly about money. "Sure, Clara. Sophie suddenly has a silver Mercedes." "That was nice of her. Well, enjoy the rest of your retreat. Love you." "Love you too." The line went silent, and I sat in my driveway, staring at our house. Our home. The place where we'd made love, fought, made up, planned our future, where we'd hosted dinner parties and holiday gatherings, where I'd carried her over the threshold 15 years ago, both of us laughing and drunk on possibility. Now it felt like a crime scene. I spent the evening installing the new security camera, angling it to capture both our driveway and the street. If Gavin or Clara decided to make any surprise visits, I'd know about it. Then I sat in my workshop, a converted garage behind the house, and started making real plans. Clara wanted to play the long game? Fine. But she'd made a crucial error in judgment. She thought I was just some simple contractor, too dumb and trusting to see what was happening right in front of me. She'd forgotten that contractors don't just build things. We also know how to tear them down. And sometimes, when the foundation is rotten, tearing down is the only option. The next morning brought rain and a text message that changed everything. I was having coffee in my workshop, going over the day's schedule, when my phone buzzed. "Elliot, this is Patricia Hastings from Hartwell & Associates. I'm trying to reach Clara about her vacation request. She didn't submit the proper paperwork, and I need to discuss this with her immediately." Patricia Hastings, Clara's boss. The woman Clara complained about constantly, calling her a micromanaging control freak, who wouldn't know real leadership if it bit her on the ass. I called the number back. "Ms. Hastings, this is Elliot Brenner, Clara's husband. She's at a spa retreat until Sunday. Is there a problem?" "Mr. Brenner, I'm confused. Clara never submitted a vacation request for this week. She was scheduled to present our quarterly diversity report to the board yesterday. When she didn't show up, we assumed she was ill, but no one could reach her." My coffee suddenly tasted like ash. "I'm sure there's been some mistake. She definitely requested time off. She's been planning this retreat for weeks. Sir, I've been Clara's supervisor for 3 years. She hasn't taken a vacation day in 8 months, and she certainly didn't request time off for this week. In fact, she volunteered to work extra hours to prepare for yesterday's presentation." I thanked Ms. Hastings and promised to have Clara call her as soon as possible. But my mind was racing. Clara hadn't just lied to me about where she was. She'd abandoned her job to spend time with Gavin. This wasn't a casual affair anymore. This was a woman who'd burned bridges and destroyed her own career for another man. The question was, did she plan to come back at all? I called Mitch and told him I'd be late to the job site. I had some personal business to take care of. Then I drove across town to Miller Realty, the upscale office complex where Gavin worked. The receptionist, a young woman with too much makeup and a practiced smile, greeted me cheerfully. "I'm looking for Gavin Miller. I'm interested in listing my house." "Oh, I'm sorry, but Mr. Miller is out of the office this week. He's attending a real estate conference in Florida. Can I connect you with another agent?" Florida. Right. The same place Clara was supposed to be, at her imaginary spa retreat. "When will he be back?" "Sunday. He's been gone since Monday. Big conference, very exclusive. Only the top agents get invited." I bet they do. I spent the rest of the morning doing what I do best, gathering information and planning my next move. A quick internet search revealed that there was indeed a real estate conference in Miami this week. Perfect cover for a romantic getaway. Gavin could tell his wife he was working, Clara could tell me she was at a spa, and they could spend 5 days playing house in paradise. But they'd made mistakes. Sloppy, arrogant mistakes that were going to cost them. I drove to Val's Tavern, a local bar where contractors, cops, and city workers gathered after their shifts. The owner, Valerie Santos, knew everyone and everything that happened in our town. She was also one of the few people who could drink me under the table and still give sensible advice. "Elliot, you're early today. Where's your crew?" "Working without me for a couple hours. I need to ask you something, Val, hypothetically." She poured me a beer without being asked. "Hypothetically, huh? Those are always the most interesting conversations. What's on your mind?" If someone wanted to find out information about a person, legally, nothing crazy, where would they start? Val studied my face. She'd been tending bar for 20 years and could read people like road signs. "Hypothetically, this person wouldn't be your wife, would it? The one who's supposedly at a fancy spa this week?" I nearly choked on my beer. "How did you—" "Sophie Chen was in here Tuesday night, drunk off her ass, bragging about how Clara was finally living her best life and showing that boring husband what he was missing. Girl can't hold her liquor or her secrets." Sophie. Clara's work friend, the one who was supposedly so supportive of our marriage. The one who'd been to our house for dinner dozens of times, who'd helped Clara plan my surprise 40th birthday party. What else did she say? Enough to make me wonder why you're not raising hell right about now. "Elliot, honey, I've known you for 10 years. You're a good man, and you deserve better than this." I finished my beer and left a 20 on the bar. "Thanks, Val, for everything." "You need anything? And I mean anything. You call me. Some of my regulars owe me favors, if you know what I mean." I drove home with a clear picture forming in my mind. This wasn't just Clara and Gavin. Sophie was involved, probably helping coordinate their meetings and providing alibis. How many other people knew? How many of our friends were laughing at me behind my back? That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through Clara's social media accounts, her email, her computer files. What I found painted a picture of a woman who'd been planning this betrayal for months. Email chains with divorce lawyers. Google searches for how to hide assets during divorce. Pinterest boards titled New Life Goals and Single Woman Apartment Ideas. She'd been preparing to leave me long before she'd worked up the courage to actually cheat. But the most damaging evidence was in her deleted photos folder, which wasn't actually deleted thanks to cloud backup. Pictures of her and Gavin together, dating back 8 months. Intimate photos that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. And in several of those photos, I could see Sophie in the background, smiling and raising a champagne glass like she was celebrating. I printed everything, every email, every photo, every text message. I organized it all in a folder labeled Evidence and locked it in my workshop safe, next to my insurance papers and the title to my truck. Then I opened a bottle of whiskey and sat in my living room, surrounded by 15 years of marriage. Wedding photos on the mantel, vacation souvenirs on the bookshelf, the throw pillows Clara had insisted on buying, even though I'd argued they were impractical. Sunday was still 4 days away. 4 days before Clara came home with her lies and her fake stories about spa treatments and meditation sessions. 4 days to decide what kind of man I was going to be when she walked through that door. I could confront her immediately, demand the truth, file for divorce like a civilized adult, or I could show her what happens when you underestimate someone who builds things for a living. Someone who knows that before you can build something new, you have to completely destroy what came before. Friday morning, I woke up with absolute clarity, the kind of focus that comes when you've stopped hoping things will get better and started planning to make them different. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and drove to the bank. As joint account holders, Clara and I both had access to our savings and checking accounts. What she didn't know was that I'd been the primary breadwinner for most of our marriage, and my name was on everything. I'd like to transfer funds between accounts, I told the bank manager, a woman I'd done construction work for 2 years ago. Of course, Mr. Brenner, how can I help? I moved our entire savings account, $43,000, into a new account in my name only. I left exactly $500 in the joint checking account, enough to cover her automatic gym membership and Netflix subscription, but not much else. Then I canceled all our joint credit cards. Is Mrs. Brenner aware of these changes? The manager asked. She will be. Next stop, our cell phone provider. I removed Clara from our family plan and had her number transferred to a new account in her name only. Let her figure out how to pay for it. By noon, I'd systematically removed Clara's access to every financial resource we shared. It was all perfectly legal. My lawyer had confirmed that during a quick consultation. In a no-fault divorce state, protecting assets before filing papers was not only legal, but smart. But I wasn't done. I drove to Gavin's neighborhood, an upscale development where the houses all looked the same and the lawns were maintained by professional services. His house was a McMansion with fake stone facade and a 3-car garage. The silver Mercedes was gone, of course, but there was a white BMW in the driveway. I rang the doorbell. The woman who answered was attractive in that high-maintenance way some wealthy wives cultivated. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect clothes that probably cost more than my truck payment. Can I help you? Mrs. Miller, I'm Elliot Brenner. I think we need to talk about our spouses. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Your husband Gavin is in Florida with my wife Clara. They're not at a real estate conference or a spa retreat. They're having an affair, and I have proof. I handed her a manila envelope containing printed photos and text messages. She opened it with shaking hands, and I watched her perfect composure crumble as she saw the evidence. Oh God, I knew something was wrong. He's been so distant, so secretive. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. How long? At least 8 months, probably longer. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I thought you deserved to know. Jennifer Miller, I'd learned her name from Gavin's social media, invited me in for coffee. Her house was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive furniture arranged for maximum visual impact, abstract art that probably cost more than my annual salary, and not a single sign that actual humans lived there. I should have known, she said, staring at the photos. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the sudden business trips. I trusted him. We both did. The question is, what do we do about it? She looked at me with something like hope. What do you mean? I mean, they think they're smarter than us. They think we're just going to roll over and let them destroy our lives while they ride off into the sunset together. But they made one crucial mistake. What's that? They underestimated us. I spent an hour with Jennifer, sharing information and coordinating our response. She was angrier than I'd expected and more vindictive. Apparently, Gavin had been controlling their finances for years, keeping her on a tight allowance while he spent freely on his affair. He bought her jewelry, Jennifer said, looking at the receipt I'd gotten from the jewelry store. This necklace cost $3,000. Do you know what he bought me for our anniversary last month? A gift card to the spa? By the time I left, we had a plan. Jennifer would file for divorce immediately and freeze all their joint assets. She'd also be making some phone calls to Gavin's clients, letting them know he'd be unavailable for the foreseeable future due to personal issues. I drove home feeling better than I had in days. Clara and Gavin thought they were playing chess while I played checkers. They were about to learn otherwise. That evening, I got a text from Clara. Having an amazing time. The spa has terrible cell service, so don't worry if you can't reach me. Love you. I texted back, love you too, and can't wait to hear all about it when you get home. Then I opened a beer and started planning phase 2. My phone rang around 9 p.m. Mitch. Boss, I hate to bother you, but Tony came through with that surveillance equipment. You want me to bring it by tomorrow? Actually, bring it by tonight. And Mitch, you might want to clear your schedule for the next few days. I'm going to need some help with a special project. What kind of project? The kind that pays overtime and requires absolute discretion. Mitch was quiet for a moment. This about Clara? Yeah. I'll be there in 20 minutes. And boss? Whatever you're planning, I'm in. That woman never appreciated what she had. After Mitch left, I sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade. Hammers and saws, levels and measuring tapes. Everything needed to build or tear down. Tomorrow, Clara and Gavin would wake up in their Florida paradise, probably planning their future together. They had no idea their world was about to collapse. And unlike the shoddy foundation of my marriage, this demolition was going to be precise, calculated, and absolutely devastating. Saturday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Clara's phone had apparently found better service. Elliot, what's going on? My credit card was declined at dinner last night. The bank called and said you moved our money. Call me immediately. My phone service was cut off. I had to borrow Gavin's phone to text you. And then, the one that made me smile. Gavin's wife called him screaming about divorce papers. What did you do? I made coffee and took my time reading through all of her messages. The panic in her words was palpable. The careful planning, the lies, the fake spa retreat, all of it falling apart because she'd never considered that her boring, predictable husband might fight back. My phone rang. Gavin's number. You snake, he said without preamble. What the hell do you think you're doing? Good morning, Gavin. How's Florida? I hear the weather's beautiful this time of year. Don't play games with me. You turned my wife against me. You destroyed my credit. I told your wife the truth. Everything else is just consequences. How does it feel to have your world collapse overnight? You have no idea who you're messing with. I have connections, lawyers, money. Had money, past tense. And your connections won't help when everyone in town knows you're a cheating piece of shit who abandoned his business for a married woman. I hung up and immediately called Val's Tavern. Val, it's Elliot. Remember what you said about some of your regulars owing you favors? Sure do. What do you need? Gavin Miller drives a silver Mercedes, license plate GRM 4501. If anyone happens to see that car around town in the next few days, I'd appreciate a heads up. Consider it done. Anything else? Yeah. If anyone asks, Clara Brenner is having some personal problems and might not be very reliable right now. Spread the word. Val's laugh was sharp and knowing. Honey, by tonight everyone in town will know exactly what kind of personal problems she's having. Next, I called Jennifer Miller. How are you holding up? Better than expected, she said. I served him with papers this morning. He's flying home today, abandoning your wife in Florida. Apparently, his business partner is threatening to dissolve their partnership unless Gavin returns immediately. What business partner? His father-in-law, my father. He's not happy about the situation. I had to admire the poetic justice of that. Gavin's affair hadn't just cost him his marriage. It was about to cost him his career. What about Clara? Stranded at the resort with no money and no way home, her flight was booked on Gavin's credit card, which I had frozen this morning. Perfect. Let Clara figure out how to get home on her own. Let her call friends and family, admitting what she'd done, begging for help. Let her face the consequences of her choices without me there to fix everything. I spent the day working in my shop, organizing tools and cleaning equipment. Therapeutic work that kept my hands busy while my mind processed everything that had happened. Around 4 p.m., Mitch stopped by with beer and pizza. So, he said, settling into a lawn chair, want to tell me what's really going on? I told him everything: the affair, the lies, the financial manipulation, the fake spa retreat. Mitch listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. Jesus, Elliot, I'm sorry. I always thought Clara was a little self-centered, but this? He shook his head. What's your next move? That depends on what she does when she gets home. You think she'll come back? Where else is she going to go? Gavin's done with her. His wife made sure of that. Clara's got no money, no job, and pretty soon no friends. She'll come crawling back, probably with some sob story about how she made a mistake and wants to work things out. And then? Then I finish what she started. We were interrupted by the sound of a car in the driveway. Through the window, I saw a taxi pulling up to the house. Clara got out, looking disheveled and defeated. She paid the driver with what looked like crumpled bills, probably borrowed money. Showtime, I said. Mitch stood up. You want me to leave? Actually, no. Stay. I want a witness for this. Clara tried her key in the front door, but I'd changed the locks yesterday. She rang the doorbell, and I took my time answering. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her makeup smeared. This wasn't the confident, glowing woman who'd left for her spa retreat 5 days ago. Elliot, thank God. My key doesn't work, and I've been trying to call you all day. I know. I got your messages. Can I come in? We need to talk. No, I don't think so. You see, Clara, I know where you've been. I know what you've been doing, and I know you've been planning to leave me for months. Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the photos I'd found. Her and Gavin kissing on a beach, her hand clearly visible with the wedding ring I'd saved 3 months' salary to buy. Florida looks nice this time of year. How was the spa? She started crying then, big dramatic sobs that might have worked on me a week ago. Now they just made me angry. Elliot, please. I made a mistake. I was confused, and Gavin took advantage of that. I want to come home. I want to fix this. Fix what, exactly? The affair? The lies? The fact that you abandoned your job and destroyed your career for a man who dumped you the minute things got complicated? How did you? I know everything, Clara. The secret phone, the deleted emails, the meetings with divorce lawyers. I know you've been planning this for months, using our money to fund your affair while you figured out how to screw me over. Mitch appeared in the doorway behind me, arms crossed, looking like the kind of man you didn't want to mess with. Ma'am, he said politely, I think it's time for you to leave. This is my house, too. Clara's tears turned to anger. You can't lock me out of my own home. Actually, I can. You abandoned the marital residence to conduct an extramarital affair. Legally, I have every right to change the locks and deny you access. You bastard! You planned this. You set me up. I almost laughed. I set you up? Clara, you planned an affair for 8 months, lied to me about where you were going, and tried to steal half our assets. All I did was protect myself. I'll call the police. Go ahead. Tell them how your husband locked you out after you returned from a week-long affair in Florida. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. She stood there for a moment, probably trying to figure out her next move. Finally, she pulled out her phone. I'm calling Sophie, or she'll let me stay with her while we sort this out. Good luck with that. Sophie's been telling everyone in town about your amazing new life, and how you're finally showing your boring husband what he's missing. I don't think she's going to want to get involved now that everyone knows the truth. Clara's face crumpled. Elliot, please. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. 20 years of marriage has to count for something. It did count for something. It counted for 8 months of you planning to betray me. It counted for you using our joint money to buy jewelry for your affair. It counted for you lying to my face every single day. I stepped back and started to close the door. Don't contact me unless it's through a lawyer. Your stuff will be packed and ready for pickup tomorrow. You can coordinate with Mitch about timing. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Clara. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to blow up our life. I closed the door and locked it, leaving her standing on the porch that I'd built with my own hands, crying for a marriage that she'd already destroyed. Through the window, I watched her call someone, probably begging for a place to stay. After 20 minutes, another taxi arrived and took her away. Damn, Mitch said. That was brutal. That was justice. But even as I said it, I knew this wasn't over. Clara would regroup, probably hire a lawyer, try to claim she was the victim in all this. She'd paint me as a controlling husband who'd driven her to have an affair. That was fine. Let her try. Because while she'd been planning her affair, I'd been building evidence. And when this went to court, everyone would see exactly what kind of woman I'd been married to. The foundation was cracked beyond repair. Now it was time to clear the lot and start over.